Inside Story Uganda, real source of political updates.
In the national resistance movement, they saw that there is health debate. And secondly, that the processes are going to be followed to the letter. You know, before the meetings were convened, the Secretary General did invite the aspirants, and he read to them the Riot Act, because the law is very clear against the candidates who may breach the code of conduct. He read them the Riot Act and said, whoever does this and is proved, know that the party is not going to mince words. They are going to take very punitive measures against whoever does that. And you can see, by the time the national chairman advises the process to be suspended, then you know that he's looking for credibility of the process, so that the people should know that NRM is not for the rich. Because that's what was happening. That the rich will come in the race, buy off everybody, yet the people who sacrificed their lives in order to fight for the national resistance movement, they were the villagers of this world who sacrificed their lives, remained in the bushes. Uganda got liberated, but those who are benefiting from the liberation now wants to just abuse the entire process so that the liberation may become meaningless. So what the national chairman has decided to do is something that is very good. And even right now, when I was coming here, I left him in Kololo, seated this time. Perhaps he could have said, perhaps it is people use his absence to want to do funny manyangas during the elections. He has decided to sit, perhaps until the results are declared tonight.
And we're going to come back to the point you've made of money, and we'll come to that point. Let me come to Honorable Namugga. Honorable, when you look at this process, especially coming all the way from last week on Wednesday, it will be concluding tomorrow, seeing some people come out of the elections, Captain Mike Mukula seceding and saying, you know what, I'll support Echodu. You also see Honorable Chiwanda coming out. What do you make of this process of the NRM?
Actually, I should say I want to congratulate all colleagues. You know, when it comes to politics, much as we subscribe to different political parties, we are colleagues in this assignment of leadership. And I also congratulate those that have really managed to stand in these turbulent waters. Because when you look at, I should say, Honorable Kadaga said the humiliation that some of these ones go through, much as the Honorable Dombo has told you, he awards himself for an 80% performance in what has transpired. And he has told you, you know, because of, there is no evidence, it's just an allegation. But one would wonder, because it tells you it has been a live broadcast, everyone sees what is happening in Kororo. And this is the very reason as to why some of us who are not delegates to the party can comment to them. So I should say, this election communicates a lot, especially to the young generation. Because we've never seen people who call themselves veterans in this game cry tears. When you look at the comments of Mike Mukula, I think he withdrew with a lot of, you know, with a lot of, I should say, anger. Because somebody might assume that it's because it was out of goodwill and wish for the good of the party, but it wasn't the case. When you look at the likes of Chiwanda, he withdrew because he did not have the money to sustain the whole process. When you look at the youth who were complaining about, you know, we've been here for quite some time. Some of our colleagues have gone back as delegates because they did not, I mean, they have not been given enough resources to keep around. All the monetization of politics that has taken place in Kororo communicates a lot to the future generation. I saw who will say, you know, whatever has transpired, whoever is part of this game, our generation cannot sort out this mess. We only leave it to the generation to come. And for him, for Dombo tells you, you know, NRM, we are trying to show the public that it's not about money. Anyone can come and join the race. But the country has watched. And even the chairman of, I should say, of the party. You know, sometimes some of us are hesitant to mentioning NRM as a political party. At times it seems to be a person is NGO. But I should say, for respect, a party. The chairman himself came out and said, I have never seen this corruption. The corruption that has been seen in this current delegates conference has never been seen somewhere else. And actually, for me, I was wondering, why couldn't he call off all these circus? Because when you look at the mess that is in Kororo, and the president also not says that, you know, a lot has gone wrong, instead of calling off a few positions, say for the Entrepreneurs League and those that were stayed for the youth, but I think he has been announced, Tanga's son, much as the youth complained, and they were like, really, this is conflict of interest. How can you stand for such an election and you are the one to announce? Even if he had all that support, it's hard for the public to believe that, you know, Tango Doi can allow his son to lose an election. So this communicates volumes to the country in regard to, number one, the sustainability of politics when it comes to those that don't have resources. People have been telling you who said he has never seen sacks of money moving around, and all this has happened around Kololo. So for us who have just joined the politics, one would wonder whether we can keep up with the pace. And if this has been done in the NRM, you know, this happened in the youth elections, you saw, and they were like, you know, the opposition, you were crying all around, but you failed to mobilize. We said, you'll see it. It came to their primaries. They had 421 petitions. That was a communication that in almost every district, at least they did not have less than 4 petitions in every district. So one wonders, what is going to happen in the 2021 election? Don't you think this is going to, first of all, it is going to cause fear to those who had, you know, come out to express interest in different positions? Number two, for those who felt they would have the guts to stand against the big shots in the party, and they have won, do you think they can come and stand against them again? So the youth are going to be intimidated more. You heard the Honorable Kadaga say, you know, these elections have been, full of intimidation, money everywhere, you know, the rigging, change of registers. So for us who have just come on board in the line of politics, and for me, I had a different picture. I used to respect the kind of Dombo. You know, whenever I just used to see him on TV, I had never met him. I only had an opportunity to meet him when I came to Parliament. We used to respect them. You see him, you know, well-dressed, and you would think the man is a man of integrity everywhere. But only to join a club of politicians, a club of leaders, and how I wish the country out there would see what happens internally in some of these events. One would wonder whether we have leaders. Okay.
Thank you. Let me come to Yusuf. Yusuf, it's good to have you. You made an appearance here. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Let's zero into...
Do you move in order, or you're okay to go with somebody who came before I did?
No, it's okay. Doctor is part of the panel.
It feels unfair a bit to have a latecomer.
Doctor is part of the panel, so please.
No.
When you look at the special interest groups, about of this 7 have been declared. The Entrepreneurs League wasn't. Only 2 have retained, meaning 4 have come in. Actually, 5 have come in. When you look at that, and then you look at today, the president is given the chairmanship, given the flag bearer, Haji Gongo is declared. As we speak, Right Honorable Among is in the lead. And then right now at night, we're still having elections going on. What does this spell for us as a country?
Wait, Anita Among is still in the lead. She hasn't won as yet.
We're yet to get those results.
She hasn't won as yet.
Not yet. Not yet. They are still counting.
Are there chances she might lose?
No.
I did find out that, but they are still counting.
Giving you the results, the chances of her losing are very slim. They're next to none.
You know, as we say, you know, we are in a marketplace of politics. So if you go to a marketplace, if you go to an auction, so say may the best buyer, may the one who places the best bid take the day. But being that politics is not business, you're not in politics, it's not a business where you're transacting and getting honest money, so we can say may the best thief win. The one who has the most amount of money, can they win money, which by all intents and purposes, they didn't do honest business to earn this money, but they stole it. So may the best win, maybe the best thief win, and we wish them all the best of luck.
Why are you saying may the best thief win?
And I wanted to move on to the imagery of a circus.
Okay.
You know, I come from the performing industry, and I'm quite familiar with the circus. You know, when you go to attend a circus, the circus performers begin by buying places where they're going to rent and stage their different shows.
Yes.
Right? And circuses are very entertaining things, by the way. If you go to a circus, you actually get entertained. Now, the people who actually stage the show pay for those places.
So they pay for the space?
They pay for those spaces from which they earn income. What we are witnessing at Kololo is a small representation of people trying to rent their different places into a national circus. So if you take what is happening in Kolo as a circus in itself, I think we have been entertained, right? There's nothing that as pleasant as watching the old hands at stealing elections, the old hands at buying elections, being bought out of these elections. It's a very entertaining to see, such a nice spectacle. When you see this, they come on the cameras and they're complaining they've been cheated, they've been bought out. Because this is the ball they set in place. It's a very wonderful spectacle to see. And haven't we been entertained? So this, if you take this as a macrocosm, we're looking at they're buying plots for the bigger circus. Now the bigger circus plays out in Parliament, plays out in State House, plays out in different places, right? So again, may the best thief win, because now the stage has been set for the bigger circus, okay? And one of the fascinating things that has happened to me this week is, and I think Honorable Dombo here, I think he's even tired of talking, because he's been talking about this thing for a very long time, is the enormity of time we've spent discussing the Central Executive Committee of the NRM political party stroke movement. What does it mean? Honorable Namugga here belongs to the NUP. We will never devote the same amount of time to discussing the Central Executive Committee of NUP. We will never do that. Because we're discussing, and being member of SEC is, you don't get paid. You're just there to guide the country, to guide the ideologies of the NRM movement. But the amount of money being spent and the amount of time we spent discussing the thing, people just volunteering to be part of the Central Executive Committee of the NRM, it's become a national conversation. It has become a thing negotiated in the marketplace. Why is that? Because people are buying plots from which they earn income. The closer you are to Mr. Yoweri Museveni, the chances are for you to earn way more than what you're going to invest in. The question that the Deputy Speaker of Parliament asked, why would one spend $5 billion for a voluntary position? It's not money wasted, it's closeness to the grandfather. Samji Ibrahim Munganda used this imagery a couple of weeks ago. When you're younger and you sit closer to the father or the grandfather, during the dinner time, chances are higher that surely the grandfather will, from his big plate, say, this piece is to you. So if you sat so far away from him, chances are high that you may not get the chance for him to extend a piece to you. So what you're seeing in Kolo is the hustle and bustle, the shoving and pushing to sit closer to the big man. One of the things that pains me is that the older folks are going out in disgrace. It pains me, and I think we'll have a chance to talk about that. Older folks, instead of seeing their time out, let's retire gracefully. I think they're going out in disgrace. That pains me. And I think the bigger conversation we've had with Honorable Dombo here is discussing the Anita Among and Rebecca Kadaga, pushing and shoving. Who should stay? And I think later in the show we'll have the opportunity to talk about this.
You mentioned the old guard leaving. Disgracefully.
Yeah.
Oh. Does this look like a transition to you? What does it look like?
No.
In your imagery, you said they have plots that they're bought.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to earn from these plots.
Yes.
How do you earn from a voluntary plot? Honorable Captain Mike Mukula said his suspicion is that about 9 billion has been spent. The Right Honorable Taiwa said 5 billion for a voluntary place. Honorable Namugga has just spoken about Uhuru, who said he has never seen sacks of money like what he has seen in Kololo. When you look at the money spent here, what are they buying and how are they going to earn their income if it's a voluntary place?
I mean, I don't, you live in this country, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the closer you are to Mr. Museveni, you get...
I got the piece of meat, but the piece of meat will just be for a meal.
No, but it's more serious than that. When you see things going through like, digital number plates, when you see things like IDs, when you see things like many of these deals that cut through, they're negotiated in State House. In the closer, if people are paying 30 million, between 30 and 70, to see the president, including ministers, by the way, what do you think about a SEC member who perhaps has a big opportunity to see him, which I'm doubtful. But What do you think it means for you to have audience with the president, you know, much more because you're a SEC member? Because they're just 30, they're not many. I think this is the smallest space where people pretending to decide for the country meet. This is the smallest space with just 30 people, right? What do you think it means to you to sit closer to him, that you don't have to go through the hassle of buying to see him? It means much more. And you need to see that, you know, this country is, we are selling this country basically. We're selling this, and everybody is trying to negotiate his access to a position which gives them power to be part of the sailors. We will go back to the image of the circus. But you see, if you have a plot, think about having a plot in the show, you know, the open area where the circus is set. But how about if you are closer to the owner of the space where the show is being staged, the man that is being paid rent to, if you're closer to that man, it means you earn much more. Look, the first point I made at the beginning of my comment was that we're in the marketplace. We went into the marketplace a long time ago. You see, if you see all these deals being negotiated in this country, I normally want to go back as far as, you know, Museveni's coming to power, 1986. Something major was happening in 1986. That was structure adjustment, when this country was being parceled and sold. We are seeing continuity. All those things that were sold, many of them have not yet been sold, by the way. Many of them have just been left to ruin. And if you have access to power, if you don't get the chance to become a minister, if you don't get the chance to become an MP, MP is maybe a lower position, the closer you are to the key decision makers, the closer you have access to those little things that this country had, Lake Victoria, our parks, our forests, our networks, the closer you are to the man who is always writing letters that State Council, give this to so-and-so, give this person money, the closer you are to that person, the more powerful you are, not just, you know, powers, prestige and dignity, but in terms of access to resources. That is what is being negotiated in
So in short, we are now a marketplace for the highest bidder.
No, we're not now. We have always been there. Not now. We've been there, I think, since 1986.
Doctor, let me come to you. You've had the analogy by Yusuf, especially on the marketplace and what we're selling. But let's get to the Right Honorable Anita Among. Is now, if the results are what are reflecting, the third most powerful person in the NRM, after the president, Haji Chigongo, and then herself. She's also still the speaker. Where does this leave the doctrine of separation of powers? Where does this leave the checks and balances of the legislature to the executive? And what does this fusion mean for any hope that Ugandans had in the legislature?
Before I come to your question, allow me also have a take on what Honorable Dombo shared or served the panel and viewers right from the circus in Kororo using analogy. Because Honorable Dombo, other than the numbers which come about because you divided some districts and multiplied the number of delegates, I don't know what would be there to celebrate. When you watch videos of people fighting in Kororo, the night was a battleground all through. The youth where allegedly a lady won, and then a gentleman was announced after so many pulling out of the race. The entrepreneur delegates who were throwing chairs throughout the night and with running battles with the police in Kororo. When you look at the women league race, where even some of the senior cadres like Honorable Anyoto withdrew in disgrace, you know, the party will fight so hard to bring back cohesion. With all these people pulling out, they are not pulling out in good faith. And you know that. So I don't know whether that is something you need to celebrate. Two, this going into the election with this discontent, with these fractures in the party, and the dynamics, these, you know, discontented leaders are likely to create for you in the general elections. How prepared are you? Also, if you look at really NRM and the, continuing the analogy of the circus, which is just a battle of money, not a battle of ideas. You have your top organ, which should be occupied by the cream in the party, and it should be a competition of ideas. Who has better ideas for the party, to take the party forward? Instead, it is a battle of money. Who has the most money, whether got through honest or dishonest means, who can dish out to the biggest chunks of money. Even delegates who came and picked money in the first and second day, they had no more reason to stay because they didn't want to spend the money they had picked. And they boarded their buses and went back. So is this something that you would regard as a success? But coming back to your question, Timothy, the doctrine of separation of powers. The Speaker of Parliament in Uganda is number 3 in the national hierarchy.
True.
Of presidents in the country. So they don't need to compete for a party position to again be number 3. They are already powerful. In developed democracies, a speaker and deputy speaker of the House, when they are elected, they return their party cards to maintain the doctrine of separation of powers. In some countries, they choose people actually who don't belong to any party, mainly from the academia, to become speaker and deputy speaker, purely non-partisan, to lead the legislative arm of government. When you are elected, and even when Kadaga was speaker, regardless of being the 3rd in the party hierarchy, she never went to Chankwanzi. And I'm sure you are aware of that. Said, I'm a speaker. How will I steer the parliament if I'm part of the caucus decisions? But I can bet that Anita is dying to attend those meetings. And that's why she was dishing out a lot of money in Kororo. Maybe she doesn't even know. Because most of the speeches she has made as speaker are contradictory and sometimes disrespectful to the doctrine of separation of powers. Maybe she doesn't even understand that. I wouldn't put it far from that, really. So we need to move to legislate for proper doctrine of separation of powers by ensuring that members of the judiciary, judges, don't belong to any party. We had the Deputy Chief Justice, the Honorable Justice Stephen Kavuma, who was a founder member of the NRM party, and he never returned his card. And it was a controversial issue. So we need to make sure that once you are chosen to belong to be a member of the either judiciary or head the legislature, you return your party card. And for the time you are in service, you don't belong to any party. That's the best way we can protect the doctrine of separation of powers in this country.
Doctor, as an election observer, when you look at what has been happening in the NRM for the past 7 days, what reflections do you get for 2026?
Well, for long we have been documenting reports show that NRM's strategy for power retention is either money or violence. And the two tools of power retention have played out very well in Kororo. If anybody ever doubted our reports, I'm sure they have seen evidence that NRM's strategy for power retention is money, and where money fails, they deploy violence.
Force applies.
They don't have any other strategy beyond that.
Honorable Namugga, you had a comment to make before I ask you a question and I get to Honorable Dombo. You had something
no,
to
I was just informing her that where money fails, force applies.
Yeah,
that's why you
violence.
saw the Honorable Mawanda say, they had to attack my line. The soldiers came and pulled people away from my line. Now,
yes.
Timothy, there was a very humiliating picture of elderly women fighting in Kororo. Their children are watching.
Which elderly women?
I will show you the
that
clip.
video.
He missed it.
You missed it. There are so many
there were
things.
so many.
Circus, there are so many things.
So many.
I have the clip here.
Timothy, just a quick comment.
Were they fighting for food?
No, I think they had something like papers. They were kind of registers. They must have been registers. They were fighting to pick those papers away from that woman. And they had to chase her. This one pulled this, the other one took this.
You know,
so it
Timothy,
was kind of chaotic.
Just a quick comment.
Yusuf.
You know, I actually think one of the fairest elections we have in this country are NRM primaries and NRM electoral processes like the one we have in Colorado. I think they're the fairest we normally have. Because whoever there has the same number of contacts, they can call for help.
The balance of terror.
So they have, almost all of them have money, so they compete on familiar territory. Who has the most amount of money? Who has the most amount of violence? And there is no due process afterwards. The violence that happens in those places often ends in those places. And I think the fairest we ever come close in electoral processes is often in NRM. You remember what happened in Maogola, where the two families of Kutesa and Kaguta were competing for an electoral and MP position ticket. That was one of the fairest in my view. Both of them had the same amount of power
And money.
to call on either side. Both of them had the same amount of money. That's a fair competition. You see, if it were Namugga here to be in that race, she wouldn't even come anywhere close to them. But that's the fairest stuff. And you see, the problem for us as a country is that because that's the fairest they know, that's the fairest they take to the country, to the larger national spectrum.
You bring something interesting, and I'll come back to that one, because after money and power, who do you call on to? Who's your 9-1? Honorable Namugga, when you see the scenes in Kololo, and you are going to be a player in the national elections, both as a national unity platform, but also as a political player in Maogola South, does this concern you? Because this can play out in the national scene.
Actually, it should not be a concern of Namugga alone. But you've seen even our own colleagues in the national resistance movement. You saw how they came up to petition their own party when they were handling their elections in primaries of the NRM. So people used to think that the violence only takes place with the side of the opposition. But this is the time when they witnessed this in their own home. Because they were never used to all this manipulation, or the intimidation, or the violence. They had never seen guns. I can give you a good example in Maogola, Remiaga, where you saw the Sechkubo and Rashande. The people of Maogola, we call them Abanyabuzari and Abanyamukago. They had never, those people, those milk takers had never seen guns. They had never seen their children being killed in front of them. Now, they used to think that when you see tear gas people being tear gassed when Bobi Wine is moving around, they used to think that there must have been chaos. There must have been violence. Somebody must have thrown stones to those policemen and the soldiers. But they witnessed all colors of the forces, blue, red, all the attires we are seeing in Zimbabwe. So this is not for the opposition alone. It's not Namugga to get bothered. The country should rise up and know this is a gun against the people. They are fighting the will of the people. The people of Remiaga told you, we were ready to gun line up behind Sechkubo. But that intimidation alone. And this also happened in Kawempe. Remember, Doctor, when we were complaining about the violence that there was in the Kawempe elections, our colleagues in the NRM never bothered. And when we came up on the floor of parliament to bring out the facts, everyone was like, no, that is the opposition. That is how they, they manipulate. But this time around, it comes with open hands to their own. Their own, as Dombo told you, he awards himself an 80%. And good enough for him is lucky. I don't know whether he even will ever come back for elections. But how I wish he joined again. I want the Dombos also to face the wrath that we go through. I want to inform the country that we've always told you that we no longer have elections. Actually, for me, when you speak about elections, one wonders. And Dombo will ask you, for you, Namugga, how did you get here? How I wish you also come and see how I got here. Because during his days, it used to be a bit easy. You saw during the 2021 elections, up to now, our comrades were killed, 59. They have never been accounted for. And you want to give me information?
Even if I went back to elections to try to find out how you got there, I will not become you. I don't know what assets you have at your disposal.
No, definitely.
About the team.
Definitely. No, I'm speaking about the environment. For us, by the way, before you go for an election, before even you think about money, think about the environment that there is for every one of us to participate. Because we allege or we assume that this is a free and fair election. Before you speak about the money, the environment should be conducive for everyone to participate. We all know we operate under multi-party dispensation. But this comes at a time. You saw, let me give you an example of the Iganga case. Yeah, the other day on Monday, when we went to open up our offices in Iganga. We never informed everyone because we knew the moment they get aware of that event, it would never take place. But you see, the moment we got there, they had to mobilize. People were beaten. Tear gas was brought out. So when you speak to issues of elections, issues of democracy in this country, people used to think the way you've asked that it's for the Namuggas, it is for the Birete, it is for the Dombo. Now it has come to be a concern, a matter, actually, it's a matter of national importance. Whoever is interested in the leadership of this country should also come to know that it is now our duty, everyone's duty, to start bringing out these issues openly. We must have an open debate about the trend of events and where we see this country before the 2026. The NRM elections that you've seen, he has called it a circus, and that is true. These have not been elections. But whatever you've observed in Kororo, even the head of that institution called NRM, I doubt whether he will sleep tonight. He must have sleepless nights today. Because I don't know what is lingering within him and how he has observed everything happens. But I credit the Right Honorable Kadaga. You know, whatever she brought out, I knew. She was aware that she's not going to win. She was aware that because of all the manipulation, all the vote rigging, all the money that has been given out, she knew she was not going to win. But what she did, if I'm to use the current language, Abalabisiza, she has exposed the NRM very, very properly. She has exposed them. Because she was like, if you have been given an iPad, you were chairperson of a district, you go back with the iPad. Do you think you'll ever go to anybody and solicit for a free vote? You've been given an iPad. You've been given a phone. And when you get back to wherever you came from, everyone is aware that you were in Kororo to share something. So for you, if you go down to ask for an election from anybody, would you think people would accept any vote without money? So that means this has cascaded down at all positions, whether you saw sometime back when people were asking, but why do else one chairpersons invest a lot of money in politics? We saw chairpersons of villages, else one, somebody using these many cars, somebody putting up posters, and one would wonder how, if you invest that so much money in an else one election, what are you going to get out of it? So this comes back to every one of us. It's high time we got concerned about the affairs of this country in regard to leadership. And if I may ask colleagues, my fellow panelists, do you think time to come we shall remain accountable to the people? Because this has become a transaction. It's a business.
Let me come to Honorable Dombo. Where did you lose it as the National Resistance Movement? Where are things falling apart?
Well, I'm surprised that those people who fight against us and stock up all sorts of ills against the NRM seem to be getting more concerned about NRM.
Because this party...
For us, in NRM, we have demonstrated that power belongs to the people. You have seen veterans and generals of the army losing and being beaten by people who are underdogs without any money. So you cannot come here on the media and begin talking that people are losing because of money.
Which general are you talking about?
General Jim Mwezi.
Mushabe is a lieutenant. He's a veteran.
Yeah.
And when we
so who is more senior than the other?
If we're to talk about that, not behind the curtain, we also know the powers that are behind, just like Serun Kuma is talking about. There is money behind Mushabe.
I don't know unless you know and you tell us. But may I want to tell you, you go to the NRM primaries. We have had ministers being beaten by primary school teachers. Would you call that they are being beaten because of money? Go and look at the return of ministers who have lost and tell me the people who have beaten them. You know, people have come here on media and they have got isolated incidents. Honorable Kadaga won in the elections last time. It is not the first time she's competing. Actually, I was in SEC, and the SEC wanted to protect her. And she refused herself.
How was
did they?
SEC going to protect her?
She said they wanted it ring first because in SEC you vet. SEC has the authority and power to vet a candidate out if they choose and they have justified reasons to do that. She refused. And this is not a secret.
So what is she be talking about?
So she competed and won. So she has just been subjected to the same democracy. Democracy has got vagaries, has got effects. And in democracy, you either win or you lose once there is a competition. So NRM is practicing democracy. There may be excesses, which we shall deal with internally. But somebody to come here and vulgarize the processes taking place in NRM and you say it is nothing, with people being elected from the grassroots up the national level, I think that would be extending the jokes too far. For us as a party, we know there have been challenges in some situations. They inflect the elections of the youth yesterday. The fault, because it is an elective congregation where people convene and it is expensive to keep them over a period of time, perhaps it may also be debated why, in the future, why we continue voting even beyond when it becomes dark. That is something that could be debated within the Central Executive Committee or the work or the leadership of the party to say why don't we only elect during the day? The question would be, if the process has started and hasn't completed, would people be willing to say let us sleep, we shall begin from there the following day? Even if they chose to do that, who will meet the costs? These are the challenges that we have as a poor country. Even lining up. I've been in Kolola and I've seen lining up. It is good, it is cheaper, but when you have got a crowd of about 20,000 people, how effectively can you line up without really compromising the standards of the elections? Because in any case, you don't know who the other people who may intrude into the elections.
Honorable Dombo, let's compare yesterday and today. Yesterday, you had the special interest groups, and you were lining up in regions, right?
Yes.
Today, you put the regions in tents. So, what caused the variation between yesterday and today?
The special interest groups also met in tents. The same tents which are being used today. Those were the venues for the meetings, the assemblies. And when they chose to line up, others chose to line up. The group today is bigger than what was there yesterday, because this is the delegates conference. The numbers are slightly bigger than those of the special interest groups. And yesterday they lined up, they held elections, people were beaten, others lost. And the Rwakajara, by the way, is not the former, is not the outgoing. Oda Rwakajara is the former member of parliament. But the chairperson for the workers was Tweheyo, who was appointed in the Electoral Commission as a commissioner, and now he has ceased with the election of Mr. Rwakajara. Tweheyo ceases to be a member of the Central Executive Committee, and he will be a member of the Secretariat. So we have had a very successful election.
Before I come to Yusuf that is itching, what is the fate of the NRM? When you look at from your mass party to grassroots 72,000 to primaries that are chaotic to now these that Serunkuma calls a circus, what is the future and the fate of the NRM?
Those are, by the way, the descriptions you are using.
I'm using his description.
Are purely descriptions either of people who don't like NRM or the media.
What is wrong with
In the previous election before this one, we had over 1,600 petitions. In this recent exercise here, we had only 400 petitions. That shows you that even when there may be challenges, we are making progress. Because the petitions have reduced, people complaining have reduced. When you talk of people who have pulled out, so what? You know, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. In a democracy, democracy has its own challenges. I was a member of parliament. I participated in an election which wasn't very free and fair, but for the sake of my party, I opted out and I chose to support the candidate and I worked for the party.
Okay.
So I want to tell you that NRM, our elections have had challenges, but every day that passes, we have had a better election. I want to tell you that out of this exercise that is just being concluded, we are going to make lessons. We're going to learn lessons. Last time we did not have a register, now we had a register. Last time the use of money was not as bad. This time the use of money was more because of moneyed people who entered into the race. But with the suspension of the exercise and what the Central Executive Committee is going to do, NRM will remain on the track. And I want to tell you that we are now going to escalate the political process to ensure that the protagonists come together. Even those who have disagreed, even those who have fought against one another during the elections, we have a duty to talk to them and for them to realize the goodness of working together and that the NRM as a party is mightier than all of us.
Thank you. Yusuf, you had a comment before we take a break.
It's not a comment. I just want to speak something broader. You know, I mean, there are two things. The first one is that, you know, modern autocrats took lessons from the autocrats who came before them. The modern autocrat, the autocrat after 1990, is way smarter than the Idi Amins and the Bokassas and the Siad Barres, because he took lessons. He understood that you don't have to suspend the constitution. You don't have to ban, you know, sort of multi-party politicking. You don't have to be so hard on the media. You don't have to say you're going to govern by decree. You can have all these processes appear to happen, but you reproduce your power through them. So you could have an oversized and huge parliament, but it's meaningless. You have a hidden entertaining electoral process, but it's largely meaningless. If I can tell you, and I think Honorable Dombo really agrees with me on this one, you see the so-called SEC, the Central Executive Committee of the National Resistance Movement, as a political party, is supposed to guide the political party, decide key policy positions, ideologies and ideals and things like that. They don't decide any of that. I'm telling you, those 30 members are as powerless as the people who are outside of that political party. What they're negotiating is access to those who actually have power. Salim Saleh is not standing to be a member of SEC. But the amount of power that Salim Saleh holds, neither of those people have that amount of power. Rabogo will not be standing to be a member of SEC. But the amount of power he has, neither of those so-called 30 SEC members has that power. So modern autocrats understood that you can let these processes take roots and appear, and they're exciting, they're debated, they dominate public conversation for entire weeks, but they are largely meaningless. And this is what Emmanuel Dombo is doing quite successfully, to tell us that what you saw is actually the absolute exemplar of a democratic process. And on that, I agree with him. The only problem that he doesn't tell us that the modern autocrat reproduces himself through the facade of democracy. The modern autocrat organizes elections, which he wins. He never declares himself a life president. He has a kadaga to amend the constitution for him. He has 400 members of parliament to be driven like school children to go to Rajtura or to State House in Entebbe, and they come back and have an amendment. That's the modern autocrat. The modern autocrat understood that the constitution is a piece of paper. Electoral process, not the one who lines, but the one who counts. And you saw the genius of our friend Dr. Doi Tanga. He's very good at counting. It's not the one who is lining, it's not the one who is taking, but the one who counts. This is why Museveni will guard with his life the position of the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. It is him who has to decide who should be there. So the modern autocrat knew that if you have these bombastic pronunciations of governed by decree, no constitutionalism, no parliament, no media, they're largely meaningless. The modern autocrat, or Emmanuel Dombo's chairperson, knows that you can actually have life presidency through the facade of democracy. Let the things happen.
Okay.
Let the noise be made.
Let me read some feedback that has come through here. Good evening, Timothy. Thank you for the show. I want to thank Dr. Sarah and Dr. Serunkuma for the detailed analysis. Let them break down for us the scramble and partition of SEC. Is it true that they never get paid? No. something joyous must be hidden under this sick thing. This is Muzamiru watching from Bunyangabwa. Okay? Whatever you're seeing in NRM is an indicator showing you the fall of the empire, and Ugandans should start to pave way and clear to know exactly what is happening. This is Paul in Busheng. Okay, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Timothy, for the show. This is Vincent in Toro. I just want to congratulate all those who emerged victorious in this exercise. Those who lost should concede defeat and rally behind the winners for the unity of the party. Okay? Mufumbiro C says, I want to thank my Elias from Busoga and the heart from Mike Mukula there. Thank you for the show. The fact is that NRMC contenders have switched the polls to bribery grounds, but as concerned people, to Riku grounds. Okay, thank you very much for being on ground. I'm Huntington. What I can say is Ugandans, let us focus on our families, but elections in Uganda will bring us a lot of heritage. I wish it was possible to announce the presidential elections before the voting, because what we have seen in 2026 Welcome back from that quick commercial break here on Behind the Headlines. Even as we get to this last leg, my name is Timothy Nyangweso. I'm joined by Dr. Sarah Birete, Dr. Yusuf Serunkuma, who is with us here, Honorable Goreth Namuganza, and Honorable Lumala Emmanuel Dombo. We did invite the Minister of Cabinet, Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, but he is in a hot seat in Kololo as we wait the results that are happening there. He's vying for Vice Chairman Western for NRM. We also did invite Rakajara, who has become the chairperson of the Workers' League, and both of them are still in Kololo running the rest there. But let's jump into some of the conversations here. But let me read these three messages. One, this is a gentleman, Agaba Osbat from Isinjiro. I think what is happening in the NRM elections is an indicator of signs and symptoms of exploitation of the little NRM that has done in 40 years. Surely the truth is that there is nothing else lucrative in the NRM government can do for this country just to leave a bad legacy behind and burden the government, burden the next government with rule and debt. Okay. All loans, all this money borrowed from the World Bank and development has disappeared in these elections, and it has been invested in politics. Okay? It's very unfortunate that people like Honorable Dombo used to defend the rotten government. I wish he had another job as a civil servant. We'll tell his grandchildren about. When he's part of a gang that is destroying this country, I'm sure he's struggling with his consciousness because he knows he's defending a pathetic government. How about Oluka watching from Canada? Okay, I'll leave it at that. Let me come to you, Dr. Sarah. What does 2026 look like? When we see this, when Honorable Dombo, the Secretary General, was presenting a report and was talking about the number of petitions, 411, and about maybe 250% of them resolved. We don't know what happened to the other 50%. What does this reflect on our elections? Because in hindsight, they have told you no media house is supposed to be putting up any indication of what the Tally Center has not put up. It's also an indication of the violence that we've seen there, the money that has been spent. What becomes of the economy? What becomes of this country?
I saw yesterday the governor, Bank of Uganda, explaining why we won't have any more money in circulation other than what is there, and therefore people shouldn't worry about post-election inflation like has been the case since 2011. But I think what we are likely to see is diversion of money meant for the common good, money in the budget, diverted so much into the electoral campaigns, partisan electoral campaigns, not money going to electoral commission to facilitate the national elections. And as much as on paper, and the governor could have a point that we shall have the same money in circulation, but in whose hands and for what purpose? I think that should also be considered. If you have money meant for roads and that money is diverted for patronage and handouts to give advantage to some competitors on the race, is it serving the same purpose? About 50% of our national budget funds are borrowed. So if you have diversion, and one comment has come in, if you have diversion of borrowed money into useless party bribery, of voter bribery, and this is a burden on everybody's head to pay back, are we getting value for that money? How do we ensure that the ruling party is not going to raid the consolidated fund to facilitate their money contests in the elections? I think that citizens deserve guarantees of that nature, and people who work on tracking budget and money releases, they need to be more alert to make sure that we don't have fake releases that are just figure announcements with no value attached to that money. When it comes to the terrain in elections, beyond money, it will be a grand auction. So what we are seeing in Kororo is what is going to happen in the race. It has always been. In our tracking of money in politics in the last elections, a parliamentary seat minimum was going for 500 million. And in some parts in Bushenyi and Kabale, the parliamentary contenders, Bushenyi, Shem and Kabale, parliamentary contenders used above 2 billion just in 3 sub-counties. And you are using 2 billion to campaign to become an MP. And that takes us to the question raised by the Deputy Speaker in his clip. Why would you spend 2 billion and above in a parliamentary race? Why don't you start a cottage industry and employ people? Why don't you go to the investment authority and look at available options and put that money to use? What is it? Because, and there was a,
last
among
week
the comments.
we were here and someone made a comment and said, and I think it was Honorable Mara, that politics is now the most lucrative business.
Actually, it's me who made it.
Exactly.
It's the, and we need to depoliticize service in politics.
Dr. Sarah, what else can pay you between 40 and 60 million if you're not a CEO of a multinational? Give me any business that will not be choked. I can give you a simple illustration. My barber put up a screen in his barber shop and he was slapped with a presumptive tax of 7 million. So how is an ordinary Ugandan supposed to survive if the most lucrative is politics at 40 million shillings?
You know, the money we pay MPs, whereas, you know, statistics show that Ugandan MPs are the least paid compared to Kenya and Tanzania, we need to attach that money to value. First, we need to reduce the size of parliament to a half, if not more than a half. Minimum is a half. Every district should have 2 MPs, 1 male, 1 female. End of the story. When you do that, it would be okay to pay Ugandan MPs to the extent of Kenyan MPs and task them what are the terms of reference of an MP. You know, a job of an MP has become the most useless. Some of them don't even bother to attend committee meetings. Some of them don't bother to attend plenary. There is an MP from Kisoro who is on record. He has never attended any parliament sitting. He has served 2 terms. He stays in the village with the people. And he earns his money, and it's known. So when you have such people who don't understand the duties and functions of an MP, where parliament has been reduced to a market sort of shouting, they tick boxes, just we have passed the budget, we have passed 100 bills. When you go to the qualitative side of these bills, you find that they are, you know, abrogating the Constitution on a daily basis. All these laws that have been put to test in the Constitutional Court have been found wanting. So when you go to that, they don't do research, there is no time to speak. 2 minutes here, if you are giving us 2 minutes, we wouldn't make any point. You know, they need to overhaul parliament, overhaul their regulations, and remove the circus element from that house. and make it quality legislative, function for the people. When you look at the violence, where NRM will be threatened, and it's good we have the NUP, one of the NUP senior leaders here, where NRM will feel threatened, where their money fails to work, they are going to deploy the military. They are going to abduct opposition supporters. They are going to torture people. This has been the trend since 2001. These are 25 years of increasing electoral violence in the country, unaccounted for, unpunishable, and nobody is bothered to address the trend. So in opposition strongholds, expect violence. Where media will be critical and balanced, expect raids in the media. Expect raids on civil society organizations. The opaqueness surrounding the electoral process. I've seen funny stories regarding procurement for the digital biometric elections. But the Electoral Commission has stopped transparency by blocking civil society. Nobody knows. I see that I have seen news, I don't know how far true it is, that a fake company has been procured to bring biometrics on the directives of people from Attorney General's office and State House. So which media house has covered the tendering story for biometrics that regarding elections by Electoral Commission? Have you seen any adverts? I haven't seen any myself. And we are blocked from that transparency. So expect opaqueness surrounding the work of the Electoral Commission. And that's how the elections will be in 2026.
So, Yusuf, let me come to you. And it's a question I posed to you. There was the regime of the Right Honorable Chintu Musoke, there was Honorable Budani Sali, there was the Right Honorable Sekandi, came down to the Right Honorable Amama, Right Honorable Rugunda, Right Honorable Kadaga, Right Honorable Justin Lumumba, Honorable Frank Tumwebaze. Now we have the Right Honorable...
Who are those you're reading?
I'm reading how we had a prime minister, we had which speaker, and gradually it has been changing in the tax that have been in the ranks of the NRM. If you look at Chintu Musoke coming to Amama Mbabazi, is there a looming transition? And where is, if we're missing anything here, what smoke screen and what are we missing about this picture?
So, I mean, I'm going to go back to the modern autocracy.
Yes.
So the modern autocracy, when it's younger, when Museveni had just come, he enjoyed the idea that there could be vibrant debate.
And Yusuf, for your information, I've just received information. The Right Honorable Anita Among has won.
That's not information, my friend. That's not information, my friend. That's old news. I mean, when the autocrat is younger,
yes,
there was the facade of debate was higher. You wanted to have wonderful debate, so you had wonderful debaters, people supposedly with integrity, and then they could. It was, by the way, the names you've read, still it was a circus, right? But our sense of seeing the circusness, it wasn't a very entertaining circus. It was more discreet. It was more sophisticated, but still it was a circus. The country was being sold. All through that period, from the 1990s, Uganda was on the chip. It was in the marketplace. Anyone can buy whatever they wanted. But there was a facade of integrity, of sophistication. Now, the more Museveni stayed in power, the more he has wanted the less, the people with far questionable integrity, the more he has also lost a bit of control. That now, money takes precedence over anything else. And I think this is the trap that Honorable Kadaga fell into. That Kadaga, because of what she represents and the work she's done for Yoweri Museveni, she felt this time she should be protected. She should be one of those members who deserve to be in SEC without election. I think she felt and pushed that angle. But Museveni knew, I want people who work for me. Now he's older, he wants workers. You can look at Honorable Kadaga. She's old, she's sickly, maybe not as agile as Anita Among. So Museveni said, I'm okay to lose you and Busoga, but in a way that doesn't make it look like I pushed you. So he said, go to the marketplace. I know somebody with bigger money who will beat you hands down, and it would look like You know, you were just voted out. But the more the autocrat stayed in power, the more it wanted to work with, you know, from the prime minister, the more it wanted to work with Nabanja, the more it wants to work with Balambangahari.
That is a misrepresentation.
Because I need to finish this
because
point.
what transpired in the National Executive Committee Council was broadcast.
Here.
Was broadcast, and two, when the vetting did take place in the Central Executive Committee, and this is public information, the very situation you are alluding to, that was the offer that was provided by His Excellency the President. Only that, he told the ladies, he said that since I have 5 nominees as members of the Central Executive Committee, not even ex officio, you nominate members, and he offered that he would appoint one of the ladies if they stood down for the other. But the decision of who should stand down, it was left up to them to begin negotiating and discussion, because the president said he did not have the powers to force anybody out of the race so that he could appoint them. But that was an offer, exactly. Okay. Not that he offered, not that he said that let Kadaga go to
the market.
To the market, so that he's beaten by somebody who has the market. That wasn't the position.
I wouldn't want to spend more time into the internal details of the NRM political party, because as I told you, it looks beautiful.
Very rosy.
It looks beautiful, and I think Domba has done a wonderful job telling us what happened. It actually looks like a democracy. I can tell you on that, NRM scores, it actually gives you the impression of a democracy. But I'm telling you, it's the way Museveni reproduces himself. It's the way you continue your reign as a life president by having the circus play out in ways that actually look like democratic work. Right? So let me build this point, and I think I'll stop on this one. And maybe I should address this also. The pretension that we have all bought into, that we live in a democratic country and democratic processes work, is the pretension we as people in the public domain, I think media circles, people in the opposition, and people in government, we bought into this lie that we live in a democratic country, that everything is decided by the majorities.
You mentioned Busoga, and it caught my ear, and I remember there was a back and forth between the Right Honorable and the President.
There are two things.
I wanted to ask, in this circus, what role does ethnicity and religion play in it? Because it's now beginning to pick, ever since the by-election of Kisoro, right, Woman MP, it has really picked up steam that even in these vice chairman elections, it seems to be picking up steam. What role is it playing?
When I mentioned Soga, I didn't mean the ethnic dimension, I meant the regional dimension.
No, it was brought up by the President.
Okay, for me I didn't mean the ethnic dimension. I think, both Kadaga and Museveni have done nothing for Soga. You see, both of them have. Busoga is so poor. Museveni went to Busoga and even said,
I can't believe there is such poverty.
Poverty smells in this place. Museveni has done nothing for Busoga, and Kadaga has done nothing for Busoga. So both of them don't represent anything for Busoga. And I use this Busoga as a regional dimension, not the ethnic component. Because I think both of them try to play with it, with Museveni saying, I return the chiefdoms, and Kadaga saying I represent the Busoga. No, neither of them have done anything for Busoga. Neither of them are equally to blame for the amount of, when we suffered Jigas. I grew up in Busoga. When the Jigas ate up people in Busoga nowadays, which is like most of them are growing sugar cane, it's cheaper to dry the canes and sell them as firewood than sell them to the Indian manufacturers as canes from which sugar is going to be extracted.
Really?
It's way more profitable to dry them and sell them as firewood.
Really?
That's what Kadaga and Museveni have done for Busoga. So all of them claiming, Busoga, there's nothing. They both, let down Busoga. So there's no ethnic dimension to it. But just as the region has been used and the neck has been sold off. But the point I wanted to make is this. The pretension, the facade of democracy, we have all bought into it. We have all bought into it. Honorable Namugga here, even after understanding that this election is decided by forces beyond universal suffrage, you will still go and participate in it. I think we're exhausted. Our creativity is down. We're failing to think outside the facade of democracy. The Dombos have bought into it. They're happy to go in Kololo, vote a SEC, which they know this SEC is useless. There's zero power in this SEC. I'm telling you, power which determines NRM ideologies is decided by people who don't even want to be a citizen in Kololo. State House, as an institution, is way more powerful than whatever SEC pretends to be. But everybody buys into the circus. We go there, we spend money, we enjoy it, we fight for it. It's exciting, and this facade, you know, when you know, my friend here, not honorable, Dr. Sarah Maldombo called him honorable earlier. When she says that you need reforms, the reforms she's talking about, they can't be implemented under this system. These are not reforms for this system. These are reforms. You see, by politics nowadays, like I think for the last 2 years, I've been pleading to Yoweri Museveni to give Uganda a chance to build afresh. I've been pleading to Mr. Museveni that he has to give Uganda a chance. What should I do? Yoweri Museveni has to give Uganda a chance to build afresh without him, because everything now is tied around him. When you see these fellows fighting in Kololo, they are fighting for who is closer to Yoweri Museveni, who gets absolute, unlimited, or uninterrupted access to this man. Because this man has turned himself into the only project productive in Uganda. You see, how did politics become the most? You see, our dreams nowadays, when you ask young children about their dreams, they dream about becoming politicians. Because it's the most productive thing. And you know why? Because Museveni has denied Uganda a chance to build without him. And you see, that really hurts me more than anything else, because it's the reforms you speak about. If you have a smaller parliament, then Museveni has to go. Because the growth in the size of the parliament is for the benefit of Yoweri Museveni. It's a channel through which he throws money at the Namuggas, at the Dombos, at the others like him, others like this crop. It's the channel through which you throw money at the elite. So the people who, and I think for folks in the opposition, folks in Dombo's party, and I think myself and Sarah, who really want reform for this country, we need to beg Museveni, because we can't beat him in an election. We're not going to go to the bush to fight him. There are no bushes to go to, unless we sit back and wait for him to die, but which will be even more catastrophic. We need to beg him that you have become the single most project in this country. The pushing and fighting in the money you see in Kololo is so that these people can have access to this man.
You mentioned something about thinking and creativity. What are the creative options we have to get this country back on course?
Is it of course?
Of course.
From
Yeah,
what he's
definitely.
saying.
Of course.
I'm relating to what he's saying.
You know, I don't have the creative options. I think that would be arrogating too much part of myself. I mean, what I can say for now is I think we need to ask Yoweri Museveni to give us a chance.
So you're begging?
To create without him. Because we can't beat him in an election. We can't fight him. We have, at least we've been trying for the last 40 years. There are no bushes to go to. You know, and you know, nobody's going to support you to fight him. You know, people fought back in the 1980s because a foreign force had power to support you. We have never, by the way, as a country, we have never removed the president on our own. From Obote to Idi Amin to the Lutwaz, we didn't remove these people. It was foreign forces that removed them. We have to talk to this man, I'm telling you, because he is the only project viable, and people in Kololo are fighting to get closer to him.
Honorable Namugga, coming to you, you are part of the legislature. When you look at your leader now, the second national vice chairperson of the NRM, and if I'm to go by anything that Dr. Sarah said, she will be vying to get into caucus to discuss some of these things, or SEC to discuss these things. Where does it leave you, like the legislature, another arm of government, where does it leave you? In trying to pass things that are benefiting the Ugandans?
First of all, I want to a little react to Dr. Salah's submission in regard to issues of governance versus the money and the budget. You know, one of the areas where government spends a lot of money, and an area that takes or consumes the biggest percentage of our budget, is governance and security. And when one sees the direction that we are taking in the line of governance, we doubt the the value for the money that we do spend in the line of governance. And governments seem we seem to have invested much in governance. But when you look at the report, the current report on human capital, the Human Capital Review report, it's only 39% of each of us's potential that has been put to use, meaning that close to 61% of your potential has not been tapped into. So, and the other things about that narrative that, you know, MPs, being a member of parliament is the biggest business one can invest in. You know, I bet, colleagues, when Museveni president was in Kololo, he said members of parliament don't like the citizens of this country. They just move around the corridors looking for money. They have never liked them. He has made that statement. I don't know whether you've seen it go viral on social media. He said members of parliament are very useless. Instead of, you know, coming to parliament to legislate for the people, they just look for money all around. And colleagues, if you do observe members of parliament after exit or after end of their term in parliament, just do a research on how many of them survive out there. So I would like to inform the country that Mr. Museveni some time back during the State of the Nation address said that members of parliament have turned themselves into government. And I want to ask every one of us who can afford and who would love to turn himself or herself into government. None of us can afford it. But because there is a gap somewhere, you find MPs buy ambulances, you find MPs supply drugs in hospitals, you find literally MPs doing activities that ought to have been done by government. So I should say,
but you know where
the trend,
you know where the problem comes from.
You can.
I've been a member of parliament, and I know. You know, the challenge is that in a desire to undermine an incumbent, every aspirant promises to do things that the incumbent is not doing. And they promise even before they become members of parliament. They say he should have brought an ambulance. If I go there, I'll bring an ambulance. They even buy ambulances, some of them, before they become members of parliament.
Thank you for that information.
Totally distorting the political arena themselves.
I want to inform the Honorable Dombo that people buy ambulances because they are not in existence. Otherwise, if an ambulance was in place, why do I buy it?
Actually,
it is because there is a gap to be filled. He should accept, but that out of a crisis, you know, out of a crisis, public crisis, people come in to do what government ought to have done. So, you know, when it goes to service delivery, we should accept government has not done much. That is why MPs have ended up carrying out activities that ought to have been done by government. And, you know, Sarah, you need to investigate on this. For me, I find it as a weakness on our part. Because if we did our part as MPs, there is no reason as to why we would have gone into issues of distributing money to people. Just imagine if people got the hospital care that they ought to look out for, if we worked on the roads, if we supplied the water, if we gave the basics that people would want, do you think giving out money would have been an issue in the current environment? But because we look out for the cheapest ways of, you know, quick fixing, and we've ended ourselves into that trap of, you know, serving and doing activities that ought to have been done by government. When it comes, when I come back to the legislature, I've always told you, Parliament has never been independent. Even before becoming a member of SEC for the Right Honourable Anita Among, you have seen every time we come to moments of budgeting, every financial year, the very head of state calls these different committees to State House. When it comes to times of passing bills in Parliament, you saw the coffee bill. In the morning, you have a different report. Afternoon, a different report. In the night, the report changes. The next day, you have a different report. Because the head of state has called members of Parliament of the NRM in State House to give a direction on how he wants things to flow. You saw the UPDF amendment bill. People started in a very good way, independent. I mean, with a lot of reasoning. It ended somewhere in a different corner. You remember the saga of rationalization of entities, agencies, where people started to allege that, you know, UNRWA has given money, so-and-so has given money. But all this, you cannot start to allege that Parliament has ever been independent. Never. Directives have always been, given from State House. You saw, I wrote the Right Honourable Anita Among's submission when she was today in Kololo. She said, I thank the head of state for entrusting me. I thank you, Mr. President, for entrusting me with the speakership. I have done my part without antagonizing my chairman and my party. But these come from a speaker. you've not antagonized your chairman, you've not antagonized your party, then can one allege that we have an independent parliament? So it all comes back to every one of us to get concerned. If we say that we have these three arms of government, you know, the doctrine of separation of powers, have we ever witnessed in any angle an independent parliament? You remember the time when the SFC came to parliament and it beat members of the opposition, and the speaker had to run away and eventually come back. When she was asked, you know, when we informed her that, you know, Speaker, in your absence, the SFC were in this house beating people, and you know, the videos went viral. She said, hey, are you sure the SFC has been here? I'm not aware. I'm not aware that somebody, we had an intruder in-house. But I mean, that happened.
Honorable Namugga, if you as a member of parliament are lamenting, then what should Ugandans do?
No one is lamenting. Because, no, let me ask.
Because you are the representatives of the people.
We do represent.
Absolutely.
My dear, you do represent the people, but you must also appreciate the power of numbers. You know they have over 359 members, actually even beyond. And you also know that because the head of state, with the virtue of the powers given to the head of state, to some extent he misuses his powers. Tell me a law that tells the head of state to bring SFC in parliament. So what do you want me to do? You saw the other time when it came to the UPDF amendment, we decided to leave because we can no longer handle the humiliation and the beating in parliament. It's not, you note down, you'll submit on your part. It's not that we are lamenting. But I mean the crisis, you remember it was in the 10th parliament, when people were beaten. What did you want them to do as members of parliament? I've told you reports change day and night. What do you want me to do? You've also observed this. So I should inform the country that, I mean, this crisis concerns...
Is walking out the only option you have?
No, but on several occasions we've remained and at the end of the day it doesn't make sense. Why do we become party to? Why do we help them walk the journey to making laws that, you know, are against the people? What do you want us to do? So I should inform the country that whatever is happening in parliament is so absurd. We are also concerned as leaders, and everyone knows we always allege that this is a people's parliament. Actually, if there is an institution that a common person can lean to, it would have been parliament, because every one of us there alleges that we are representatives of the people. Meaning that we ought to have, you know, legislated, we ought to have budgeted or appropriated on behalf and in the interest of the people of this republic. Unfortunately, we have these of our colleagues who are ready to use all arms at their disposal, whether shooting people, whether beating, using public resources. I mean, they can do it at leisure because they have the power. What do you expect us to do?
Honorable Dombo, the president has condemned corruption. Even when he came today, he condemned corruption, condemned the use of money. Even when the Right Honorable Taiwa got up, he talked about 5 billion. Even when Honorable Mike Mukula was pulling out, he talked about 9 billion. You talk about commercialization of politics. You talk about money. You talk about stopping it. At what point do you stop talking and start walking?
Timothy, the issue of corruption is a very big vice that must be dealt with all determination. But corruption keeps changing. That's why when our friends were in parliament, they approved the money for Honorable Mpuga, but they turned against him. But until that became public, nobody would believe that Honorable Mpuga could be accused of benefiting from such. Even when he had taken the money and he was asked, he was denying. But his money, which had been approved by these people here. But they always come here to talk about corruption because they want to impress the public. The members of the opposition, I told you here on the media that they will never boycott parliament. These members of parliament, they are given free lunch. When teachers are not given free lunch. I was in parliament, I was never given free lunch. They have never boycotted going for games because they earn allowances. They have never boycotted areas where they earn money. Even when they walked out on the committee of disco report of defense, they went and earned the money in the committee report first. the allowances. And when they came to Parliament, because in Parliament you don't earn by signing, that's why they walk out. But if they were in Parliament like we used to be in the 6th and 7th Parliament, where we could only earn the days that we have met, they wouldn't be doing that. But they come here and pretend. So, I want to tell you, corruption is bad. We must deal with it. But our friends here have not been honest. They come here and lament before the public, but when they go there, they are beneficiaries. How come when they're earning salaries, they have never come here to tell us how they negotiate together with the members of Parliament of NRM? They go and hide and agree and discuss in their budget in privacy. And when they come out here, they come and pretend that now they are talking on behalf of their people. They don't. I was a member of Parliament. And I want to tell you that we moved very strong laws. We even talked on behalf of the members of the opposition, even in situations where somebody would have found it very difficult to do. One time, police club at the Honorable Nabira in Kampala here. I had to stop Parliament. They were going to read the budget. I stopped Parliament, the reading of the budget, and I moved a motion to condemn government for doing that. We even set up a select committee in Parliament, which invited all the ministers, the inspector generals of police, and recommendations were made. Why do these members of Parliament come here to lament in the media, but when they go to Parliament, they walk out instead of representing their people? This is pretense. So, I want to tell you that corruption is bad, that we must tackle it. Even in the national resistance movement, that's why the president is talking about it. He's the chairman of NRM talking about it. He's condemning members of NRM. He's not condemning the opposition. He's condemning members of NRM. So this is determination on our part, although at times it becomes difficult to deal with it. But I want to call these people, you know,
so
for Parliament,
we need to walk.
Let me tell you that Parliament, in order to fight corruption, it is the only institution of government which was given the law, the protection, and the type of mandate which nobody else has. Parliament has the power of court to summon, to cause to appear, to present documents. You go and read the Public Accounts Committee reports and see the recommendations that they make. You just know that they get compromised themselves. These committees are chaired by the opposition. Go and read and see the recommendations that they make. When Honorable Alaso, because she was a born again, was chairing Public Accounts Committee, they brought for her money in Parliament, 200 million. And she refused it. Tell me any member of the Public Accounts Committee, of these members of the opposition who are there, who has ever surrendered any money. You think they don't bring money to them?
You seem to be massaging politics, Honorable Dombo.
No, I'm telling you that corruption, we must fight it, but you must demonstrably be seen to do that. And when you tackle government, you don't tackle government by complaining on TV. You go and move motions. I moved a motion against government when Nabira was beaten. And the select committee was set up.
Honorable, let's come back to Kololo. If we're looking at Kololo just itself,
yes, please.
3 members have talked about 5 billion, 9 billion, money being spent, allegations of delegates receiving 300,000. Your president, our president, your chairman has stood and said, we need to end this. Why are you not fighting this vice?
No, the chairman has said. Now let us wait and see what the chairman is going to do.
There was a walk. You have done everything.
The chairman,
21 anti-corruption bodies.
The chairman has said, let us see what he's going to do. Then secondly, he has put up an investigation. Let us wait, because those are allegations. Honorable Mike Mukula talked about 9 billion. Who can quantify it? Somebody else here has talked about...
But where you see smoke, there is most likely fire. So why are you not finding the fire?
No, you don't fight fire by throwing stones or complaining on TV. Fighting fire, you must get evidence. You must get people who are willing to testify. Even those who are doing the investigation. You see, corruption, why it is very difficult to fight? It's because corruption itself is sweet. And it is even sweeter for those. It is sweeter for those who are supposed to fight corruption. The judges, if they are not corrupted, They're supposed to fight corruption. The police, which takes statements, must fight corruption. The prosecutors must be cushioned. Government has tried by enhancing the salaries of the judicial officers. Government has tried by enhancing the pay of the DPP's department. Government has tried by trying to invest in technology and training of the people who investigate. But the cycle, in order to complete, even the people who go to testify, this may not be part of the government process, but the people with the evidence, they must be willing and not ready to be compromised.
Okay, government is trying. At what point does the government stop complaining about trying? Yes.
You know, Honorable Dombo, today, as it reminded me of Kemko Ali under Saddam Hussein's regime. As young people, we thought Saddam had really prepared to push back against the American invasion because of the propaganda by Kemko Ali, only to be discovered in a hole like a rat. So when NRM came to power 40 years ago, point number 7 among the 10 points program was fighting corruption and eliminating all forms of abuse of office. I want to ask Honorable Dombo, there was a clip by your colleague from SEC, outgoing member of SEC, Honorable Wanyoto, when she said that she was among the people who advised your party chairman and President Museveni to address the short-term needs of MPs through bribery of the 100 million in order for them to pass the UPDF Act. Have you ever addressed such conduct in SEC, and what actions do you take? Because all your leadership is involved in compromising and weakening the legislature. And how do you then expect to fight corruption, a means that you use to keep power?
I can respond to that. You know, it depends on what the confession, if it was what she was intending to achieve. I was a member of parliament. I have been a beneficiary of a contribution by government to help members of parliament to overcome their loans.
A bribery?
And I was a commissioner.
As a bribery?
At that time, let me tell you what happened during our time. Members of parliament took loans, and there was a Chinese company which offered to buy them. But unfortunately, they couldn't, because when we told the president about it, he said that he cannot allow such a thing because it would compromise the leaders if a private an outside company comes in to do such a thing. So because of what happened, the president said, he quoted the Kinyankole proverb. He said, you can only clean your ass with your own hand. He said it in Kinyankole. He said, because this is our problem, because of the recklessness of our leaders, we shall come in to help our leaders get out of this, but we must get a permanent solution against it. The president has done that. He has helped the churches, church leaders. He has helped the religious leaders whenever they have challenges. He has helped business persons to bail them out whenever they have had challenges using his executive powers, but that may not necessarily become corruption. To say what Honorable Wanyoto said, that he gave members of parliament pass a bill, I have never come across such a thing, and I would definitely condemn it if I had heard about it.
If I may finish my submission, the president went ahead to put it in writing on his blue-headed papers, saying that you Ugandans who are condemning the 100 million, don't you receive money from foreigners? I hope you remember that letter as well, which was a... But the point on corruption, 40 years in power, NRM cannot fight corruption. The only issue when NRM people, including their leader, speak like members of opposition is when they are talking about corruption. They speak as if it is opposition and they are going to capture power and do some miracles. They cannot.
Who said this opposition we can talk about corruption?
Because of time, we're going to each get 2 minutes of parting shots, and I'll start with Dr. Sarah, Dr. Yusuf, then I'll go to Honorable Goreth, and lastly, Honorable Dombo. Your parting shots, I will come to you, and then Honorable Dr. Yusuf.
Well, as an actor broader on governance, attempting to promote constitutional governance in Uganda, I would be happy to see parties improving their internal democracy practices, which would, in the end, improve democracy at the national level. So when you watch things like what is happening in Kororo, it's a very depressing process. It makes Ugandans lose hope. It will increase apathy on the young people, most of them who are voting for the first time, about 45 million. Some of them might not even show up, which again weakens the electoral process or electoral democracy that we are struggling to build. And it's a shame that really, since 2006, when parties were revived in the country, that parties cannot get right the basics of building internal democracy. I wish they could improve on that, because it's what translates into the culture or the quality of democracy that we have at the national level.
Over to you, Dr. Yusuf.
You know, I mean, I enjoyed listening to Dombo, you know, have a go at Honorable Namugga, accusing of being a beneficiary prophet. And you know, one of the easiest things we can do now is to take down a member of the opposition if you're a member of the NRM. Because you corrupt them yourselves and you wait for them. You wait for them in the woods when they want to pretend to be very upright, and you say, by the way, we are giving you money. You know, because of the circus. The circus is very pretentious. You know, we go into Parliament. Parliament, you know, Kalunda Sermaga wrote a wonderful piece where he said, Parliament is the bride, not the bribes that are given around in sacks, but the institution itself. Parliament is a very darting institution. You know, once you enter that place, if you're sane, you can't stay there. If you want to stay no more, you can't. It's a very darting institution.
Ask her about it.
Because that's what you just did to her. You said we've thrown money at you, and you and your other members have eaten this money. That's what Parliament does. Parliament is the bribe itself. But I would say this, as you say, you call them parting shots, is that, you know, as a country, and I think as everybody, we need to step out of the circus. If we want to be serious. Because you see, this small matter between Namugga eating money and Domba accusing NUP, it can go on forever. But it's a small matter. It doesn't matter on who fishes on Lake Victoria. It doesn't matter in the lives of the Wasoga. It doesn't matter on the bills we lose to telecommunications companies. It doesn't matter. They don't matter. These internal wrangles, because the circus is pleasure and we take from it. You know, my politics this year is begging Mr. Museveni, help us get out of this circus. Honorable Dombo, it's okay not to be democratic. It's okay. Don't accept to be bullied. You have ideas to keep and ideas to keep. It is okay not to be democratic. Don't pretend about it. You beat people, you throw them in jail, you buy others. Forget all this pretense. You Honorable Dombo, you know 100% that the people in SEC, they really don't matter in the broader picture of things. When core decisions are taken, it's either a select group of a few people. These people are just scampering for positions. So I think as a country, we need to step out of the circus. We need to become serious. This is our country. We need to start see real things happening. We need to get back. I mean, I was very happy when we got back at, you know, electricity from a private company, because it mattered. This private company takes so money from people. We need to get these things back. Our telecoms, our coffee. These are things we need to be talking about. We spend humongous amounts of time discussing politics of a circus, when we know once you end in Parliament, it doesn't matter. This is just taking a set out.
And I know you've read the book, The Economic Hitman. I don't know if the electricity you're talking about is the same, but let me come to Honorable Namugga. Honorable, your parting shots.
I should first of all say it is very regrettable of my senior colleague Dombo. He was in Parliament for 20 years to really be as micro as alleging members of Parliament take free lunch. I mean, that is being too micro. And I should inform the country, when you look at the Auditor General's report, I'm a Deputy Chairperson, Park Central. For the last 5 years, NRM has only implemented 31% of the Auditor General's recommendations, 31% of the Treasury Memoranda. So, I mean, man, you can't get more serious than you have been today. And I should inform the country, like the way I said, this circus and the way we are taking leadership too light, to the extent that as a leader you can come on TV and say, you know, you people are just making noise here. The reason as to why we are here is to have a public debate on the state of events in the country. It's not that we don't have spaces for where to discuss the things he knows. We go to Parliament and put this on table, but this is the only space the nation has to also get the other part of it. So never come here and allege that people come here, you know, to shout on TV. It is also being too micro and, you know, running short of how to bring out issues. I should say leadership means a lot to us as a country, and as leaders that do possess these positions, we should sit down and concentrate on serving the people. We should look out for the rule of law and also know that several people have occupied these spaces. But every year that goes by, every voting season, the leadership levels are deteriorating. We should accept. There are two things that Mr. Museveni has successfully done. Number one, he has totally undermined the spirit of governance. The leaders, every season that comes, electoral season, the stature of the leaders that bring in deteriorates. Number two, the institutions of government independence. None of these institutions are independent. So if we are to really move on with the issues of affairs of this country in regard to leadership, I'm so 100% convinced that Mr. Museveni can't do much. He can't do much. I also concur with my colleagues, Dr. Wirete and Yusuf, that the only option they have is to exit, because they can't do much. They can't add on.
Okay. Lastly, Honorable Dombo.
Timothy, you have just said, I haven't read on the social media, but since you have announced, it must be public information that now we have new members of the Central Executive Committee. I don't know whether all have been declared.
No, just one. The news that has come in is that the Right Honourable Anita Among has won by 92%. The Right Honourable Kadaga got 7.6%. The rest are ongoing.
You said the news.
I want to.
Yes, the news.
I want Timothy.
You are really the circus puppeteer.
Timothy, he tells you he belongs to the arts industry. Timothy, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate Right Honourable Anita Among for joining SEC as the second national vice chairperson. And this is, comes with a lot of responsibility. In the same vein, I want to congratulate the Right Honourable Rebecca Kadaga, who has been in this position championing the good governance and the good things she has done for this country. In a democracy, there will always be a winner and there will always be a loser. But at the end of the day, the country gains when it competitively selects its leaders. We shall be waiting for those who are yet to be declared and who are still in the competition. I know our form of democracy may have its own challenges, but I want to assure the public that the national resistance movement will keep improving. We take criticism not in bad faith, and we want to tell you that don't attack us also in bad faith, because we're either limited by resources, either human resources, or competences of the people doing certain things that they should be doing. We are operating in the same political spectrum.
Okay.
I want to thank everybody, but I want to call on members of parliament, and those especially in leadership, that your positions were enhanced by the provisions of the law. Coming to cry about numbers not being enough or having lesser numbers, you can convince people across the aisle. I moved so many motions when we were convincing the members of the opposition to join us. At no time did we walk out because the opposition had abused us, but we always worked with them because they all belong to the same parliament. When we talk about the things that benefit them as members of parliament, they come together. They should also come together to talk about things that benefit all Ugandans. Okay. That's the only way we can improve the governance in this country.
Let me read just 4 messages here. A very good night, Timothy. I'm Jasper from Ruaga. Today I have seen and confirmed in the innermost personalities of the leaders through the strikes and demonstrations. And my question is our country ready to stomach this kind of democracy, alleged patriotism, the among, and must have the church to reveal what the country's plan moving forward, okay? David from Mbale says, I think Uganda is building a new comedy store in its elections. I think you are agreeing with Dr. Yusuf here. Malinga also goes on to say, he's from Mbale, the issue, NRM, I myself, since I was young, up to today, I've supported the party, but NRM is starting from the village up to Kololo elections. It's a business. For example, my LC1 flag